Hey everyone, today we're going to cover the nervous system. Just like your skeletal and your muscular systems, I'm going to split this into two tests. We're going to start off with the general introduction. As a general reminder, the nervous system is your master control and communication system of the body. It does this by communicating with the body cells using electrical impulses. These are rapid, so they occur pretty fast. They're specific, so they go to certain muscles and glands. And again, like I've already stated, they cause generally an immediate response. Now, the nervous system does not work alone to regulate body homeostasis. The endocrine system also helps communicate, but it does it in a slightly different way. Where the nervous system is generally fast and it does it through nerve impulses, the endocrine system does this by releasing hormones and it does it leisurely, in other words, slowly. Now, there are three overlapping functions we're going to talk about for your nervous system. The first one is going to be your sensory input. This is where your body gathers information, and it does this by looking and monitoring for changes that happen both inside and outside the body. These changes are called stimuli. An example of a stimulus inside your body is your body temperature increasing and you're getting hotter. Another stimuli outside the body is maybe the room that you're in, the lights are too bright. Your body takes this information and it sends this to your nervous system, and specifically your central nervous system, your brain, and your spinal cord, where it's going to integrate this information. During the integration stage, your brain processes and interprets the information it gets and then decides what needs to be done. That signal is then sent as a motor output, which is a response to activate muscles or glands. For example, if it's too hot out, it's going to cause glands to release a chemical to tell you to start sweating. If it is too bright in a room, it's going to cause your pupils to constrict so it doesn't let in as much light. So here are your three functions. It's essentially sensory input, integration, and motor output. You can use a lot of different examples, but one that I like to use is sensory input. You see that there is a step in front of you. Your brain registers and processes that there's a step in front of you, and therefore it tells your foot, for example, your gastrocnemius, to flex your leg and step up the stair. Here's the image that is in your notes that I would like you to copy down because it's an overview of what we're going to discuss. This is the organization of the nervous system. It starts off, the two major divisions is your central nervous system, which is abbreviated CNS, and then your peripheral nervous system, which is, I abbreviate your PNS. These communicate with each other, which is why they have an arrow that go to and from each other. Your peripheral nervous system is then split into two parts. You have your sensory and your motor. Your sensory, these are going to come from your sense organs. These are going to be the ones that take in the change. And notice that the arrow is going to the PNS. So this is going to the CNS. This is going to be the information that's taken in to your integration. And then your motor output is called your motor pathway, and this is going to come from, and here this can be divided two ways. We can divide this as a somatic or autonomic. If the action goes to a skeletal muscle, these are voluntary reactions. This is somatic. If it goes to things like increases your heart rate or tells glands to release, let's say, a hormone, this is going to be more autonomic or involuntary. You don't have control on them. Autonomic is then divided into two parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic. We'll get into more detail when we get to that section of this chapter. So again, as an overview, nervous system is split two ways. We have a structural classification and a functional classification. The structural classification, we're going to talk about those two at the very top of that picture I'm having you copy. The central nervous system and your peripheral. So again, your central nervous system, we just like to abbreviate it CNS. There are two organs that are part of this system. The first one is your brain, and the second one is your spinal cord. The whole function of these two organs is to be the command center. They are the boss. They take in that sensory information and they issue the instructions to tell your body what to do. Your peripheral nervous system, on the other hand, which is abbreviated PNS, includes any nerves that come off of your brain and spinal cord. So spinal nerves, these are going to come off of your spinal cord. Cranial nerves, these are going to come off of your brain. The function of this is not to be the boss. The function of this is to relay the information. They are the communication lines that take what your brain is saying and gives it to the organ, gland, or muscle that needs that information. From there, we can talk about functional classification. This is really only concerned with peripheral nervous system structures, and this is down below is the breakdown you saw in your picture. It breaks down into sensory and motor. Motor is broken down into somatic and autonomic is broken down into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Again, we're just giving the general overview of it, but we're going to delve into each of these individually. So sensory, this is sometimes called afferent. The key word here is it carries information to the central nervous system. So this is going to be your sensory input part of it. For example, your skin could tell you whether something's hot or cold. Skeletal muscles can tell you whether you're pushing against something that is easily pushed or hard to push. Joints, do you have pain in your joints? Also, visceral organs also help. Heart, is your heart beating too fast or too slow? Lungs, are you getting enough oxygen? Motor, also known as efferent division, these are a little bit different because they carry things, nerve impulses, away from your central nervous system. So this is what's going to tell your muscles, hey, you need to move your arm, you need to move your leg, you need to smile, or glands. Hey, you need to secrete this hormone, you need to secrete this enzyme. Your motor can then be divided into two subdivisions, somatic versus autonomic. Somatic is sometimes called your voluntary nervous system. They're called voluntary because the somatic nervous system controls things that you can consciously control, such as your skeletal muscles. You can tell your foot to lift. You can tell your arm to move. You can tell yourself to smile. Autonomic, on the other hand, I think it sounds like automatic. This is your involuntary. This occurs without you having to tell yourself to do it. The things that it controls is your smooth and cardiac muscles and also certain glands. For example, you don't have to tell your heart to beat or you don't have to tell your heart to slow down. It does this involuntary. It's not in your control. Autonomic can then be further divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Your sympathetic is your fight or flight. So what happens when you're under duress or you're very nervous or anxious? Typically what happens is your heart starts racing faster. Your pupils dilate. You stop digesting food because you need that energy somewhere else. Parasympathetic is the opposite. This is what happens in your body when you are calm, you're just resting and munching. Typically, digestion or food breakdown increases. This is usually when you have to go use the restroom, your heart rate slows, and a lot of other things happen that make you feel calm. And that is the end of the lesson. If you have any questions, please make sure that you ask, and I hope you guys have a great day.